Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this IP webinar on electronic public service withholding tax being presented in conjunction with Revenue Commissioners. My name is Ciara Enright. I'm the Finance Manager in the Irish Pharmacy Union. Our presenter tonight is Mr. Brian Farrell from the Business Taxes Support and Customer Service in the Personnel Division of Revenue Commissioners. Brian will be explaining the background behind and the implementation of the new electronic public services withholding tax. Before we start, though, some housekeeping. You see at the bottom of your screen there's a questions box. You can put questions in here at any time during the presentation and we will answer them at the end. The presentation is being recorded and will be up on our website from tomorrow. So we will endeavour to get to all the questions at the end of the presentation, but if by any chance we don't get to yours, we'll put it up on the website tomorrow as well. So now, without further ado, I'll hand you over to Brian.
Hi folks, and you're all very welcome. And first of all, thank you to the Irish Pharmacy Union and Ciara and the team behind as well for arranging this webinar, and indeed for you all for attending on this hazy Wednesday evening. So this is an ideal opportunity for Revenue to raise some awareness about electronic professional services tax, and we're most grateful for the opportunity. So I'm going to start the presentation now. So Brian Farrell is my name. I'm the business owner of various business tax systems within Revenue, and I'm the team lead on bringing on electronic professional services withholding tax. My presentation is going to last about, I would say, 10-15 minutes or thereabouts, and then I'm going to devote the rest of my time to questions and answers. So please do think of questions for me. I'm going to talk about the legislation underpinning ePSWT. I'm going to compare the paper system to the electronic one. I'm going to talk about some good advice and practice for specified persons. Just at the offset, I'm going to say for clarity, specified persons are those who are offering professional services, and accountable persons are the public sector body typically that is paying the specified person. I'm going to talk also about refunds and how to go about claiming interim refunds. I'm going to talk about agent access as well. The system is going to go live on the 1st of July, which is approaching very soon indeed. So this webinar is very timely. So to begin, the legislation. Section 13 of the Finance Act is due for ministerial signing, and if it's not already signed this week, so the 1st of July will end the issuing of paper F45 forms. Now, there was some concern in relation to the HSE cyber attack and whether the HSE would be ready. Revenue has been working with the HSE over the last month or so, and the conclusion is that ePSWT is proceeding from the 1st of July as originally planned. The other parts of the legislation around PSWT in sections 520 to 529 remain largely untouched. So the nature of the services that are under PSWT hasn't changed in any way. So if the service was under the remit of PSWT in the paper system, well, then it's under the remit in the electronic system. And additionally, the definition of specified person and the definition of accountable person is unchanged. So comparing the paper system to the electronic system. Well, prior to electronic PSWT, when an accountable person, and that is a public sector body, pays a specified person, in other words, somebody who's offering a professional services, 80% of the invoiced amount is paid to the specified person, 20% is deducted and remitted to revenue. The specified person can use that 20% as a credit against their own tax. The specified person is given a paper 45 form which details the payment and the deduction. Under electronic PSWT, you'll see that the top two bullets are exactly the same. So the deduction and the remitting to revenue is exactly as before. However, instead, the accountable person makes a payment notification on ROS, which outlines the deduction, instead of issuing a paper F45 form. Electronic PSWT means that accountable persons will not be submitting any paper forms to specified persons. This change will end the creation and the transmission of 500,000 paper forms annually. This reduces the admin burden on everyone significantly, and I suspect all of the stakeholders, including revenue, are glad that ePSWT is here. So, what does ePSWT look like from the accountable person's point of view? Well, there are 5 aspects of functionality for the accountable person, and I'm going to go through them. Okay, so 1 is they can make individual payment notifications using the ROS interface. 2, they can upload bulk payment notification using a CSV file up to 5,000 payment notifications at a go. 3, they can search and amend payment notifications that they've made. 4, they can generate a PDF acknowledgement of selected payment notifications. PDF acknowledgements should be given to non-resident cohort of specified person. There's no need for the accountable person to give the PDF acknowledgement to a resident specified person, because the resident specified person can go into ROS or My Account and look at their own payment notifications in there. The PDF acknowledgement contains the payment notification reference number, and this is crucial when the specified person is looking to claim the credit back, but more on that later. The last item, that's item 5 there, is the accountable person can generate a report of payment notifications, and the options for reporting are pretty flexible. You can select a year, and then you can select a month if you want, and then you can select a particular specified person or a group, and then you can generate your report. The report is exportable in a CSV file and therefore importable into Excel. And this will prove very useful for the accountable person when they are determining their liabilities for the monthly F30 and the annual F35. So let's compare it to the specified person's view. Now, if I go back to the last slide there and then go forward again, so I'm switching between the slides here, and what I'm hoping you'll notice is that there's not all that much difference. Okay, the difference is that the specified person cannot make a payment notification or amend it, and that's it. They get all of the features of the ePSWT. They can search payment notification, they can generate their own PDF acknowledgements, and they can generate their own reports of payment notification. Now, from the specified person's point of view, the reports will prove very useful in that, again, exportable to CSV and importable into Excel, and that will prove useful when the specified person is claiming their PSWT back, either in I beg your pardon, interim refund or in their annual returns. So, some good practice. Well, the bulk of administration is done in ePSWT by the accountable person. The specified person, largely speaking, just suffers the withholding. Now, I use the word suffer there just for lack of a better word, because I have noticed in some of these that some specified person feel that the withholding is actually pay your tax as you go, so it's not necessarily or seen as a disadvantage, or but it's just something certainly that I've picked up on. Now, in preparation for ePSWT, it is good practice to ensure that your accountable person has enough information to make payment notification. And there are three items, if you like, that they need: your tax reference number, your tax type, and your name and address. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about tax type, because the tax type wasn't on the paper F45 form. So this is new to PSWT. Now, the tax type can either be income tax, corporation tax, or VAT. And if the accountable person has always known you by your VAT number, well, then the tax type would be VAT, and the tax reference number would be your VAT number, and that's fine. The system will accept those combinations. If you look at a specified person, they would typically have 4 registrations, or that's, if you like, a common number of registrations. So what I'm talking about there is their PPSN, they would have income tax or corporation tax, they would have VAT, or commonly they would have capital gains tax. Now, in the vast majority of cases, the number is the same number for each 4 of the registrations, but there are exceptions to this, and those exceptions mean that we need 2 tokens of information when making a PM. That's the tax reference number and the tax type. That's why it's coming in to an electronic system. In other words, just the tax reference number isn't enough for a positive identification. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I've covered that. I'm not going to talk. I'm going to talk about payments from APs. Just to make sure that your AP has your correct BIC, that's BIC, I see there it's incorrect, an IBAN. Just if you imagine the scenario from the accountable person's point of view, they'll see your invoice, and they will put it into the payment run in accordance with the BIC and IBAN that they have. And then they'll create that bank file and they'll send that off to the bank. And then the same day or the following day, they will make a payment notification relating to it. Now, a few days later, the bank will come back and say there was an error with this payment because the BIC and IBAN were incorrect. And the accountable person then is involved in contacting the specified person, clarifying what the BIC and IBAN is, and deleting the payment notification, reinstating it, and this just causes delays, slows down the process. So it's just something to be conscious of when we're moving into ePSWT. Okay, interim refunds. Well, under certain conditions, an SP can claim an interim refund. Those conditions, generally speaking, are that when they have suffered a withholding amount of PSWT, which is equal or greater than last year's tax liability, they can claim an interim refund on all subsequent PSWT suffered. That's generally speaking the condition. Now, under the paper PSWT system, how you went about this was you completed an F50 form. And then you submitted all of the F45 paper forms within the period of the claim, and there could be many. Under electronic PSWT, what you do is you complete a new claim form, and we're calling the new form the F50A, and it will be on revenue within days. And it's practically identical to the F50, except it has space on it now for you to fill in the payment notification reference number. So what you'll be doing on the F50 is putting in all of the payment notification reference numbers for the payment notification for the period of the claim. Now that payment notification reference number you can get from Ross or my account, and you just log in and you'll see manage professional services withholding tax, and you can go in and you'll see all of the payment notification that were made by an accountable person where you had PSWT deducted from a payment. You can export that into a report, and that will give you all of your payment notification IDs. That's the ideal way to obtain them. Non-residents won't be submitting an F50A. So non-resident specified persons will be making a claim to the International Claims Unit in Revenue in NINA, and they fill out separate forms, and they will be submitting the PDF acknowledgement which the accountable person will have provided to them. And that's because non-residents don't have access to Ross or my account. So they are, let's say, maintaining that paper system for now. Agent access. Well, agents have full access to the ePSWT system, but they have to be linked in the correct way. From the point of view of accountable persons, an agent has to be linked to the PSWT tax registration, but for the specified person, a link to any tax registration will do. So if a tax agent is linked to your income tax, for example, they will have full access to manage and search payment notifications, to generate PDF acknowledgements, or to extract those reports, which again will help your agent in the filing of your return. Okay, so this is the last slide I have in the presentation. Now there's just a couple of notes while I have the floor still that I kind of want to say. First of all, on that first bullet point, the tax and duty manual was republished last week, and it's got additional information about the system. So if you have any queries, go and have a look, and you can download that. And it has all of the details about ePSWT in it. And the other item that I'll say, which isn't on the slide, and we're already looking at enhancements to the ePSWT system, and one of them which will affect you as specified persons is that right now subcerts in Ross have full access to ePSWT. So we're going to put in an enhancement so as that the administrator cert in Ross can restrict access for subcerts if the administrator so chooses. What I'm going to do is I'm going to yield the floor, and I'm going to push it to questions and answers. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you for that, Brian. There's actually only 1 or 2 questions, so I'll just give you the one that we have here. And it is, can you explain what the options are re tax type? Is this a selectable option? For example, PSWT.
Well, from the perspective, let's say, of the accountable person or the public sector body, when they're making the payment notification, they have a choice of 3 to put in. That's income tax, corporation tax, and VAT. Now, the first thing that an accountable person is going to do is they're going to ask the specified person what their Irish tax reference number is. And if your invoice says your VAT number, well, then they're going to say where it is. That's they're using when they use VAT, and there's the VAT number, and that's it. Now, if not, they're going to put in either income tax or corporation tax based on your entity. Okay, so the rule of thumb is that if the specified person is a company, and it's easy to decipher, they'll have, Brian Farrell Limited, or Brian Farrell Unlimited, or DAC, or that will be their name, and the tax type in that case will be CT because they're a corporate. And then otherwise their tax type will be individual. So that's the rule of thumb. I hope that answered the question, but do come back to me if it's not answering it.
That's great. We don't have any further questions, so I think that is it for this evening. Thank you for coming along.
May
yes,
I?
Go ahead.
Yes, there's a couple of things that I want to, I suppose, bring up. And the first is about marriage. Okay, so this is an interesting phenomenon which we've discovered. I suppose the question lies on whether or not pharmacists are marrying other pharmacists. Okay, and this has type implications. So this is why I'm bringing it up. Okay, so let's say we've found it to be very common in the medical industry, let's say, so it may replicate itself in pharmaceuticals. But what the issue is a joint assessed case where you have the assessable spouse is a specified person and the non-assessable spouse is a specified person. So you have both. So let's say you have 2 pharmacists and they are both married and they are both therefore specified person. One will be registered for income tax. That's the assessable spouse. And they will complete the Form 11 and they will have both trading income on that one Form 11. The non-assessable spouse should be registered and ceased for income tax. Now, what we have found is that in many cases, that non-assessable spouse is registered for PAYE only. And that won't work for ePSWT, because if you remember, you need one of 3 tax heads: income tax, VAT, or corporation tax. So PAYE won't work. Now, we have looked at the data of specified persons, and we have found that there is about 1,500 cases where non-assessable spouses are incorrectly registered. And over the coming days, in preparation for the 1st of July, we are going to register them for income tax and cease them appropriately. and that will allow them to engage with the ePSWT system and have PNs made in their name using the appropriate tax head, and in this case it's income tax. And I would imagine that there are certainly individuals out there in the pharmaceutical industry that fall into that category. So there may be others as well too that we discover after the 1st of July. So I suspect there will be another tranche of this. Okay, so that was my point. I'm not sure if that has generated any feedback. It may or may not have.
Yes, there is actually. There's a question there, Brian. Where married people run their pharmacy through a company, will this matter?
It will. Let's say the married couple have a company, and that's how they run their business. The company is the one that's providing the services to the accountable person. So let's say the accountable person is the HSE. For the HSE will be engaging pharmaceutical services from the company. So the payment notification will be the company's number, and the tax type will be CT because it's a corporate. So the notion of assessment and joint assessment won't come into it in that case.
Okay, thank you for that one. There's another one there. It says, I think you possibly answered this already. How do you access the ePSWT? Is it a portal?
Yes. You can log into ePSWT from tomorrow, would you believe? I'm not exactly sure what time tomorrow, but the link is going live tomorrow on time for the 1st of July. So either you can log into Ross or you can log into my account, and you will see a link in there called Manage Professional Services Withholding Tax, and you can click that and you will see the various options within it. Now, it's unlikely that there will be any payment notifications in there on the first day, but you never know. And that's because from tomorrow, accountable persons can make payment notifications for the 1st of July. So this is, if you like, in preparation for a payment which may occur on the 1st of July. We have allowed a certain flexibility within the system so as that accountable persons, I beg your pardon, but accountable persons can make a payment notification up to 7 days in advance. So it's possible that tomorrow there could be an accountable person out there that will notice that it's up, and they'll make a payment notification on the system for a payment that's going to occur on the 1st of July.
Okay.
Did I say my account as well too? Yeah, so it's both Ross and my account.
Okay, that's good to know. Then I suppose one last one then is, will there be historical information there, or is it just from the first?
No, it's a short answer. So there is a, let's say, a cutoff where the 30th of June is the last time that F45 will issue, and from that point on it'll be a payment notification electronically on Ross. So there won't be historical data in relation to the paper F45 forms. The F45 forms that are in revenue, they're scattered throughout buildings nationally, and even finding out who specified persons are is actually enormously difficult. So there won't be any, if you like, re-examination of them to feed back into the system. So this brings up an interesting question, that is, what if I was making a interim refund and my period crossed between the paper system and the electronic system? Okay, because we're introducing ePSWT halfway through the year. Well, if that is the case, you will have to fill out an F50 for the paper portion of the year from the 1st of January to the 30th of June, and then a F50A for the electronic portion of the year from the 1st of July to the 31st of December. But this is the only year you'll have to do that. After that, it'll just be the F50A, and you won't need those paper forms.
Okay, thank you. And then just the last final question is, how will HSE GMS DPS payments to a company be treated? So,
how will HSE payments to is it the GMS, the contract, is it?
yeah, so the I suppose the rebate that they get each month for the fees.
It's unclear to me exactly what's in the GMS contract. So I would have to, I suppose, examine that contract and see who the payee is. In other words, if the GMS contract identifies a company, or if the contract identifies a pharmacist as an individual. Now, if the contract identifies the company, well, then the payment should go to the company, and the payment notification should be the tax reference number of the company with CT as the tax head. If the GMS contract names specifically the individual pharmacist, well, then the payment should be to the pharmacist, and their tax reference number should be what's used. I hope that answers it.
Yeah,
I'm not clear, by the way, what's in the GMS contract, so perhaps somebody if you want to tell me in an email, I can certainly examine it, but I haven't read the GMS contract. So.
Okay, that's fine. I think that covers most of the questions that we have there. So we'll have a look more at the GMS ourselves and get back onto you, and we can put that question up on the website tomorrow.
Sure. If there's more questions, I'm happy to stay. But what I would say as well too, in relation to questions, if there's more, the specified persons can make my inquiry on Ross or my account, and it will be answered by their branch. But I'd be happy as well also, if you want to feed questions to the IPU, and you have a series of questions and you send them to me, I'm happy to, if you like, work through you, Ciara, and the IPU if you want, or if you're interested in that.
Okay, sorry, and there is just one more then. Is the F50A, is it still an annual return?
Okay, so I'm just going to clarify that a little. The F50A is the interim refund claim form, so it's not annual. So it's whenever you want to make an interim refund. There is annual returns in PSWT, and that's the F35. There's also monthly returns in PSWT, and that's the F30. Both the F30 and the F35 are filed by the accountable person or the public sector body, not by the specified person. So pharmacists will not be filing annual returns in PSWT.
All right, okay. Like I said, I think that's it now. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. Like I say, if we get any more questions in, I'll forward them on to you, and then we can update the website as well once the presentation goes up with these questions and any further that come in, if that's okay. So absolutely. Thank you all for coming this evening, and I hope you all have a lovely evening and the rain stops.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Cheers. All the best. Good luck. Bye-bye.